Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we cut through the noise, stack up the sources, and really pull out the key nuggets of knowledge. We want to give you that shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Exactly.
Today, we're plunging into, well, one of the most pivotal conflicts of the 18th century, 7 Years' War. Huge, complex stuff.
Absolutely massive.
But we're not just, reading straight from the history books. We're tackling this through a really fascinating lens, a detailed set of rules for a war game, a simulation of this very conflict.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way to approach it.
So our mission here is to unpack how these game mechanics actually capture the strategic goals, the main players, and even some of the really surprising twists of this, well, epic historical event.
It's about seeing history dynamically, not just statically.
Right. How can a tabletop game reveal something profound about a real war? Okay, let's get into it.
I'll do it.
So the 7 Years' War fought 1756 to 1763, often called the first real world war, right? Because it wasn't just Europe.
It spanned continents, North America, India.
Yeah.
But our focus here, based on the game, is mainly the European theater.
Gotcha. And the source material, this game, it frames it as this big simulation, pitting two major alliances against each other. So who are these main players and what really kicked it all off?
Okay, so on one side, you had the Anglo-Prussian alliance. That's primarily Prussia and Great Britain,
Okay.
and opposing them. You've got the Bourbon-Habsburg alliance. Think France, Austria, and Russia. A formidable coalition.
Right. And the spark. What lit the fuse in Europe?
Well, the game really kicks off, and history largely agrees, with Prussia's preemptive invasion of Saxony in 1756.
Ah, Frederick the Great making a bold move.
A very bold, very aggressive move. And that immediately drags Austria into the fight. They were very keen to reclaim territory they'd lost earlier.
Silesia, right?
Exactly, Silesia. So by 1757, all those pre-war tensions and diplomatic shifts just, boom, crystallize. All the major powers are now slugging it out in Central Europe.
And it wasn't just random fighting. As the game rules emphasize, these nations, they had very specific objectives. Real skin in the game. What were they actually fighting for?
Precisely. That's key. Each power had distinct goals driving their strategy, both historically and in the game. For Austria, like you said, #1 goal: get Silesia back from Prussia. It was a matter of prestige and economics.
Okay, Austria wants Silesia. What about France?
France. Their main aim was to capture Hanover. That's territory in Germany, but it belonged personally to the British king.
So hitting Britain where it hurts, dynastically speaking.
Exactly. And that, of course, pulls Great Britain directly into the fight on Prussia's side. They had to defend Hanover. It was crucial for them.
Makes sense. And Russia's angle.
Russia was looking to, well, put a check on Prussia's rising power. Frederick was becoming a bit too influential for their liking. Plus, they wanted to expand their own influence into Poland and parts of Prussia near the Baltic.
Okay, so curbing Prussia, expanding influence, and Prussia itself, Frederick's Prussia.
For Prussia, honestly, it was about survival, pure national survival. They were surrounded. Their main goal was just hold on to their starting territories, Silesia included, and ideally capture Saxony to turn that initial gamble into a win. It was existential for them.
Wow, okay. That breakdown really paints a picture of this complex web of rivalries. So, given all that, how does a game even start to simulate this, especially the unpredictable stuff like leadership?
Right. It seems daunting.
Yeah, and I saw this mechanic about Empress Elizabeth of Russia. That sounds wild. What's the deal there?
Oh, that's brilliant. It's probably one of the most historically resonant mechanics in the game. It captures a massive turning point. So at the start of each new game year, players have to make a simple die roll, just a standard 6-sided die. And this roll determines if Empress Elizabeth of Russia survives the year.
Seriously, just a die roll for her life.
Yep. If the roll is less than a specific number for that year, the target number changes slightly over time she lives, and Russia stays firmly anti-Prussia.
Okay. But if the roll is higher
or equal, then she dies. And this is where it gets dramatic. The consequence is immediate. Her successor, Peter III, takes the throne.
And Peter
was a huge admirer of Frederick the Great. So the moment he's our, bam, Russia switches sides, completely flips its allegiance to Prussia.
Whoa. Just like that.
Just like that. The game even has a second roll to see how many Russian armies actually join Prussia to fight against Austria.
That's incredible.
It really is. It simulates what historians call the miracle of the House of Brandenburg. Prussia was on the ropes in 1762, facing total defeat, and this sudden shift in Russia saved them. The game forces you to deal with that potential bombshell every year.
Talk about a historical what-if built right in. It really shows how one person's fate can change everything. Okay, so beyond that high drama, how do the armies, move around and fight? How's the campaign simulated?
Movement itself is pretty straightforward. The map's divided into areas or regions. Players move their armies, which are these little cardboard counters, one area per turn usually.
Okay, standard stuff.
Yeah, and there's a clear sequence each year. In 56, Prussia goes, then Saxony, then Austria. From 1757 on, it's Prussia and Britain, then Austria, France, and Russia. Pretty structured.
But I bet there's a twist.
There is, and his name is Frederick the Great. He gets his own special counter.
Ah, knew it. The man himself. What makes his counter special?
Well, it reflects his reputation. First, speed. He can move 2 areas per turn, not just one. Big advantage for concentrating force or reacting quickly.
Nice. What else?
He starts in Berlin, the capital, and crucially, he can't be captured or killed in the game. He's resilient.
Invincible Frederick.
Pretty much. But maybe the most important thing is combat. His presence gives a +1 bonus to one of Prussia's dice rolls in any main battle he's in.
Okay, that +1 sounds small, but I bet it makes a difference. It captures that idea of his, tactical genius on the spot.
Exactly. It reflects his personal leadership making a tangible impact.
So when these armies do bump into each other, how do battles work? Just rolling dice?
Pretty much, but with some structure. When armies enter the same area, it triggers a main battle. Each side can stack up to 3 army counters, plus Frederick if he's there for the Prussians.
Right.
Then, for each counter you have, you roll a 6-sided die. A 5 or a 6 hit removes an enemy counter.
Simple enough. 5 or 6 is a hit.
Yep. After both sides roll, you see who lost more counters. The side with the most losses has to retreat.
And if it's a tie, or nobody hits?
Good question. If losses are equal, or if neither side loses anything, the attacker wins, the defender still has to retreat. So there's an attacker's advantage in breaking a stalemate.
Interesting. Okay, the rules also mention lines of communication, LOCs, and minor flanking battles. Sounds important. What's that about?
Our LOCs are critical, absolutely vital. Think of them as your army's lifeline, your supply routes. Each nation has a specific LOC area marked on the map. Prussia's is in Central Europe, Britain's is Hanover, and so on.
Like their home base connection.
Sort of, yeah. It's where supplies and reinforcements flow from. Now, if your army moves adjacent to an enemy's LOC area, you can try a minor flanking battle.
Hitting their supplies. How's that different from a main battle?
Couple of key ways. First, it's harder to score a hit. You need a 6 on the die roll, not a 5 or 6.
Ooh, tough for odds.
Much tougher. And second, Frederick's +1 combat bonus doesn't apply here.
So it levels the playing field a bit in these smaller fights.
Exactly. It represents more of a skirmish, a raid on supply lines, rather than a full-on pitched battle where Frederick's genius might shine. It adds this whole other strategic layer. You have to protect your LOCs. Cutting enemy supplies was historically huge.
Yeah, makes sense. You can win battles but lose the war if your army starves. Okay, so how do armies get replenished, and how does the game actually end? Is it just total wipeout?
No, not necessarily total annihilation. Reinforcements arrive at the start of each year, right after that Empress Elizabeth check. Players roll a die for reinforcements. The result determines how many new army counters you get. Simulates manpower, resources fluctuating. These new guys appear in your capital city or your LOC area.
So you can rebuild, but it's unpredictable.
Right. A good roll might give Prussia, say, 3 new armies. A bad roll, maybe just 1. As for the end, the game finishes automatically at the end of 1762.
Okay, fixed endpoint.
Or players can all agree to peace terms earlier if things reach a certain point. Victory isn't about wiping everyone out. It's about achieving your starting objectives. Did Austria get Silesia? Did France take Hanover? Did Prussia survive?
Back to those initial goals. Very cool. That really brings us back to Frederick. The game's epilogue talks about him fighting against these crazy odds, his genius being key. How does the game reflect his personal impact beyond just that +1?
Well, the counter itself is an abstraction of his importance, that 2-area move. That's his famous speed, his ability to march troops rapidly, concentrate forces, surprise the enemy. Classic Frederick.
Right, outmaneuvering them.
Exactly. His invulnerability in the game. That speaks to his resilience, his refusal to quit even when things look bleakest. He was always there, leading from the front.
And the +1 bonus really drives home the tactical edge.
It does. It says he wasn't just a king, he was a commander who could actively influence the outcome of a battle through his decisions on the field. His presence mattered.
It's amazing how these mechanics try to capture that, and it makes me think about his own writings. Our notes mention his poem, L'Art de la Guerre, The Art of War. Can you tell us about that? Does it connect here?
Oh, definitely. L'Art de la Guerre is fascinating. It's this epic poem, 6 cantos long, written in French originally. In it, Frederick lays out his whole philosophy of 18th century warfare, his strategic science.
So it's not just battlefield tactics, but grand strategy.
Yes, and he mixes it with all these classical allusions, references to other great commanders before him. It shows he was a real student of war, an intellectual as well as a practitioner. The game's mechanics, the speed, the combat bonus, they feel like a distillation of the principles he wrote about. That focus on decisive action, maneuver, leadership.
So the game reflects not just what he did, but how he thought about war.
I think that's a great way to put it. It captures the spirit of his approach.
Let's make this concrete. Can you walk through one of the game's battle examples? Say, the main battle one with Frederick leading. How does that +1 really play out?
Sure. So picture this. Frederick and 2 other Prussian counters attack 2 Austrian counters. Prussia rolls 3 dice. 1 die gets Frederick's +1.
Okay.
So let's say that special die rolls a 4. Normally a miss, but Frederick's bonus bumps it to a 5. That's a hit.
Yeah.
1 Austrian counter is removed.
Nice. Bonus makes the difference.
Exactly. Now, maybe the Austrians get lucky too. They roll their 2 dice and 1 comes up a 6. So they remove a Prussian counter.
Okay, so 1 loss each. A tie.
Technically, yes, in terms of losses. But remember the rule. If losses are equal, the attacker wins the battle.
Right.
So because Prussia attacked, they win. The remaining Austrian counter has to retreat. Frederick's presence literally turned a potential stalemate, or even a failed attack if he hadn't gotten the hit, into a victory.
That perfectly shows how he could tip the balance.
Yep.
What about the other example, the minor flanking battle, like Austria hitting a Prussian LOC?
Right. Different feel. Say an Austrian army attacks Prussians near their LOC. Now, both sides need a 6 to hit. Much harder. And no Frederick bonus for Prussia, even if he's nearby.
Higher stakes for damage, lower chance of success.
Exactly. If an Austrian die roll does come up a 6, they remove a Prussian counter. And that Prussian counter instantly retreats back towards its own LOC. It shows how vulnerable those supply lines are, and how even a small success there can disrupt the enemy. These aren't about grand victories, but about chipping away, creating logistical problems.
It really highlights 2 different kinds of warfare happening simultaneously, the big clashes and the crucial supply line fights.
Which leads to the bigger question, really. What do we actually learn about history from playing games like this?
Yeah, it's easy to dismiss them as just games, but it feels like more. While they simplify, they distill things down, right?
They absolutely do. They turn these vast, complex events into systems you can interact with. You're not just reading about Austria wanting Silesia. You're actively trying to take it or defend it within the game's constraints.
You feel the strategic choices.
Precisely. You grasp the core motivations. You see how leaders like Frederick had to juggle threats. And you experience through things like the Empress Elizabeth rule, how sudden, unpredictable events could just completely change the game. Literally.
It makes you appreciate the sheer challenge Prussia faced. Just surviving was a victory condition. You feel that pressure playing the game.
You really do. That sense of being surrounded, needing to be faster, smarter, maybe luckier than your opponents.
So we've done our deep dive into the 7 Years' War, but through this really unique war game lens. And we've seen how these mechanics, they really do highlight key historical stuff. The distinct goals of each power, the huge impact of leadership changes, that Empress Elizabeth rule is just mind-blowing. And of course, the role of individuals like Frederick the Great.
It really hammers home that idea that knowledge is best when it's understood and applied. Even if the application is a simulation, it's a dynamic way to engage with the past.
Gets you thinking differently than just reading a timeline.
Absolutely. Makes those events feel more immediate, more comprehensible. You see the forces at play.
Yeah. And what really strikes me, wrapping this up, is how even in this structured game, these forces of, well, fate that die roll for Elizabeth and individual genius Frederick's bonuses can just dramatically shift everything, especially for Prussia, fighting against the odds.
It was a constant knife edge for them.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much of history, the grand story, is actually meticulous planning and strategy, and how much is just sheer unpredictable chance? A lucky roll of the dice at the right moment.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something to definitely mull over.
Indeed. Something to think about until our next deep dive.